With Lululemon, the real gift happens when they're living in it. When you give them the coziest scuba matching set, the real gift is this. And this. And this. This holiday, Lululemon makes it easy to give a gift that goes beyond. Open the moment. Shop now at Lululemon.com.
Move your career further, faster in just 2 days with a Harvard Professional and Executive Development Program. Advance your leadership skills, craft smarter business strategies, build your network, and transform how you work and think to keep your career moving forward. You'll earn a certificate and can add Harvard to your resume with Harvard Professional and Executive Development. Learn more at professional.dce.harvard.edu/Spotify.
His code name's Jackal. He's an exceptional assassin.
Streaming now on Peacock.
He will kill again, unless we stop him.
Academy Award winner Eddie Redmayne.
You're paying me to kill him. I am charging you for getting away.
The Jackal's here. Look at the exits.
BAFTA Award winner Lashana Lynch.
I will find him, and I will kill him myself.
I like to win.
So do I.
The Day of the Jackal. Streaming now, only on Peacock.
Welcome to Book Talk for Book Talk, a podcast where we deep dive into the writing of your favorite novels.
This is Jack.
And I'm Amy.
In Season 1, we explored Sarah J. Maas's A Court of Thorns and Roses. In our post-season content, we look forward to sharing listener feedback and thoughts we received over the last 8 weeks, as well as listener content from some special guests.
The views expressed by the hosts and guests are entirely their own and in no way represent the thoughts or intentions of the original author. This podcast is a discussion shared to spark thought and conversation on the characters and themes of this novel.
Though the hosts speak mostly within the constraints of this book, series spoilers may be discussed with or without warning. Explicit language, as well as themes of sex, violence, abuse, and depression will reoccur throughout this podcast. Listener discretion is advised. This week, we're interviewing one of our most highly requested guests. Lili, also known as a Happy Hermit on TikTok, quickly gained notoriety for her in-depth and well-researched observations on Sarah J. Maas's bestseller, A House of Sky and Breath. After reading Crescent City series, Lili quickly found parallels between Maas's other series and began deep diving into the Maas Multiverse. Since February, Lili has created a number of videos where she shares her theories and insights. Today, we are thrilled to have Lili on the podcast to answer some of our questions and explain some of her amazing theories. Fair warning to everyone, there will be some massive spoilers for all Sarah J. Maas novels in every realm. Welcome to the podcast, Lili.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome. I gotta say, I have been a fan and have been watching you since like you had less than 1,000 followers. So I've been there from the beginning.
That gives me anxiety because like the beginning videos, you know, you start from one place and then you find your groove and then, you know, people start liking your old videos and you're like, oh, I'm so embarrassed. But thank you, nonetheless.
And when I say you've been the most highly requested guest, every single time we've done a live or comments, people have always asked, when are you going to do any theories on Court of Thorns and Roses of like the multiverse? And we've always been like, we're not, because like we're not the professionals here, but you know, like Happy Hermit, and everyone's just like, you have to interview Happy Hermit.
Oh my goodness. It's so wild to me that the way that it happened and like how it's going, it feels wild. But I'm grateful nonetheless that people will let me just unhinge, spill out, you know, just verbal SJM soup onto the internet and people listen to it.
There's something about Sarah J. Maas and soup that we all appreciate.
Exactly.
You know, I think what people love so much about you is that what we've heard from a lot of our listeners is that they don't have friends with whom they can talk about this stuff. Mm-hmm. And so it's great to be able to connect with others who are just as interested as they are and can make those connections.
Yeah, I don't have any bookish friends in real life at all. I have my sister-in-law, she dabbles a little bit, but she is like not an unhinged nerd. So like I literally didn't have anyone to talk about this with. Like my world literally exploded on a random Tuesday at like 1:30 in the morning. And I just had to like sit with it inside of me. And then I went to TikTok because I had to, or else I would have exploded.
I'm guessing that was the moment when you finished Sky and Breath.
Yes. Yeah. Basically, yeah. It was literally like 1:33. I have a video like of the moment that I finished it. Because I was literally like, I need photo evidence that this happened to me. Or like, I just like needed to express it in some way.
So would you say that was the moment that first got you into analyzing SJM work in the multiverse, or was there something else?
So when I read Akasif for the first time, A Court of Silver Flames, there was something that triggered my head. And I was like, that reminded me of something in Tower of Dawn. And then I was like, but meh. I mean, how could she pull those two things together? And then I read House of Sky and Breath, and I was sitting there and I was thinking, I was falling into madness after that, beautiful last line of, hello, Bryce Kunalin, I am Rysand. And and I paced for a little while, for like another hour, and then I was just thinking about what Nesta found in the prison. And I was like, oh my goodness, that ties to this, that ties to this. And I started writing it down in my notes app on my phone, just like little things that I had remembered. And then I was like, well, now I need to do a reread.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, everything that Regulus talks about in chapter 73 is just so many pieces of, of the puzzle just getting thrown and thrown and thrown. And I was like, they all connect somewhere, and I need to know how they connect. And that's what it was.
The fact that you made that connection with the whole like Throne of Glass series that early on, like just immediately by really reading Silver Flames, then that means like Sarah J. Maas clearly has been preparing all of this, right? So based on your rereads, how early do you feel that SJM started generating the idea of the multiverse?
From the very beginning. When you look at Throne of Glass, the specific scene of Aelin or Selena in Alina's tomb for the first time, it literally talks about time rifts, about rifts in the world, about world crossing, about other worlds that, the Val come from, the Val have always came from another world, and that's always been there in the beginning. I did later learn that around the time of Air of Fire, when she was writing Air of Fire, when she was in press tours of Air of Fire, she got the idea for Crescent City. So yes. And she was writing ACOTAR around the same time as Throne of Glass. They're kind of written around the same time. So Air of Fire and on is where I just finished Air of Fire yesterday. So I suspect that major tie-ins will be there, but even in Crown of Midnight and in Throne of Glass, you're seeing similar powers, you're seeing similar lineage, you're seeing similar, just similarities that parallel each other throughout even just the beginning of it.
It's crazy.
It's wild. The woman is a genius, in my opinion.
I mean, didn't she start the whole like Throne of Glass and in high school? Like that's when she started, this whole idea came to her head.
Yeah.
And has now rocked our world.
Yeah, and it's become this. I do think, like, some people like to discredit her in some way. They're like, oh, it's just lazy writing or whatever. And I'm like, well, she is the creator of these universes. She is the writer of these universes. And she would be stupid not to go back through her other works and find things to pull in and be like, oh, I left this out, or this could mean this. Like, that's just smart. This is her work. She could do that. And pull it off. And that's what I think she must have done.
In the podcast, we talk a lot about like just her writing style, and people tend to like downplay that, like not even looking into the theories, but just like the way she writes. And when we looked at ACOTAR, everything was done with a purpose. It's tight writing. It's smart writing. She's just very well put together author.
And to go off of that, if she's leaving out details, it's very intentional. And if she's bringing in details, that is equally intentional.
I totally agree. My biggest thing that I realized in probably Silver Flames, and then mostly when I started doing my Throne of Glass reread, her foreshadowing is her likeness. Whenever she likens someone to something, that is how she foreshadows. And I think that is the most incredible way to do it and to pull it off.
Can you give an example of one of those?
Oh,
off the top of your head, sorry.
Off the top of my head, when, in the beginning of Throne of Glass and in, Assassin's Blade, which I don't know when that was published, but she had written it beforehand, I think, the novellas. She always likens Selena to flame and shadow. Like always flame and shadow. And that's just foreshadowing her powers.
Yes.
And it's like just little things like that. Or Maeve is always likened to like a spider's web. And then when we learn about her spider handmaids in Tower of Dawn, you're like, oh my goodness, that's why. So
we definitely see that in ACOTAR and that entire series. So I'm in the middle of my deep dive into A Court of Mist and Fury. And so even beginning in ACOTAR, Nesta is likened to flames, but so is Cassian, which I love because it just it just lends itself to their compatibility and their future together, I think.
Yeah, the way she does mates is pretty incredible.
Oh, yeah.
Like, even like with Rhys and Farah, just like from the very moment, like the first 5 pages of ACOTAR, it's like pretty obvious that Rhysand is her mate.
Do you feel like they're like in ACOTAR itself, like just like book 1? Did you find any signs of multiverse there?
Yeah, I think with the mother and the cauldron and the history of that, and how she like world walked to Prythian and then like had this cauldron that created life and Fae. I think that's and then that's just book 1. And then later in A Court of Mist and Fury, it's Mist and Fury. Rhys talks about the rifts in the world and like how Amryn came through. Like, Amryn's always been from another world. That's never been a hidden fact. So I think just those 2 in general. And then if you go a little bit further, you can, talk about like the Bone Carver and about the Weaver and Koshi and all that. Like they've always just come from another world. That's always just been a possibility.
So you mentioned the mother, and I know you meant mother as in like high fae religion and deity or what. I don't know what they consider the mother, but the creator.
But I don't know. I've been, one of my biggest things that I've been making notes on is the mother and like who and what is she, because she is something, but I don't know what. But.
So we think it's not insignificant. And so the same goes for our listeners that Mother Archeron is unnamed. And there's a lot of mystery around her. And I don't know to what extent this ties to the high fae mother or creator. But one thing we've heard a lot is this idea that Mother Archeron is a starborn descendant. Do you have any thoughts on this or what that might mean for the Archeron sisters?
This is going to be a very convoluted, and there's a lot of background to this answer. My answer is yes, but it takes a while to get to how I think that. So we learned that Farah's name is the Old Fae language, is from the Old Fae. The Old Fae language is also spoken in Crescent City. I think that the Old Fae language comes from Tog. That's what Rowan has his tattoo written in. That's what they do speak it in Tog as well. So I think that Farah's family line does come from a high fae, specifically a high fae from the Throne of Glass universe. And I'm going to add into that and say that it was a healer, and that healers have the Starborn power. And I can clarify on why I think that healers can kill Valg. Yrene killed Irwin in the battle. They do it in in Tower of Dawn. Then we also know that Aelin has a healer ability in her, and her fire is also considered opal and iridescent, very star-like. And so she has that healer and that starlight ability. And then we also learn in Crescent City, when Bryce has the Star Sword, she kills the Valg Reaper. Or the Reaper is a Valg because they have black blood. So in the preference of anyone who has black blood can be killed by a Valg, or can be killed by a Starborn.
Yeah.
Then in that long line of thought, the Bone Carver also talks about a Fey warrior that trapped his brother and sister, and and they have black blood. We know that the Weaver has black blood, and if they are blood siblings, then thought process would be they all have black blood. Lanthes also has black blood in Akasif, and he was a death god as well. The only thing that could stop them or make them be scared would be a healer. So she was able to use her healer abilities that probably came from the Tog universe, because we also know now that there was the rifts and the portals and people were getting trapped where they weren't supposed to be getting trapped. And she was able to use her healer abilities to trap them. And then her line ended up going down into Farah's line. And that's why the Weaver was so keen on helping Farah and seeing if she was worthy of being helped, because he saw that line in her. And in the human line that she came from. That's my thought.
I mean, your thoughts are now my thoughts. I'm on board with that. It's like, it makes sense. I mean, like, there's a reason why Farah, like, the monsters like her in a way, I guess you can say. Like, I don't know where the cereal comes into it. Maybe this has nothing to do with it. But even he's just kind of like, cool with her.
Well, he has black blood.
Wait, does he have black blood?
Yes, he does.
Oh,
and it smells like soil, which also... the Book of Breathings in Throne of Glass smells like soil. It has stuff about Valg in it. And then in Crescent City, they smell like soil and rot and black blood with the demons.
One of our listeners, they are Welsh themselves, and they kind of came over saying, like, there's a lot of meanings and names, right? Obviously, like, there's some of the names have, like, Tamlin, the name comes from an old Scottish folklore about someone being captured by the Queen of Fairies. So SJM does a lot with that. And they pointed out that Elaine means bright and shiny one. And I was like, oh, crap, this means she's starborn and useful, doesn't it?
Well, also think about when the cabin with Feyre and Rhysand, once they are mates, they accept that they're mates and they're having sex, and she emits starlight and he emits darkness.
When Nesta and Cassian solidify their mating bond, there is also a golden iridescent light that they liken between them, and a bond that goes between them. I think Nesta also has that. And when we're talking about mates now, but when Aelin and Rowan solidify their mating bond, she lets out a starlight glow.
Amy's like brought this up to me before with it. I'm like, no, it's because she's got like the day court in her. And now that you're putting it all together, I'm like, oh my God. We'll never know unless Elaine finally does something with Lucian. Unless Lucian isn't even her mate, which is also what half of TikTok thinks.
I try not to talk. It's almost horrible because there is actually a lot of like really interesting things about Elaine and Gwen specifically that I would love to talk about, but I don't think I ever will, because the conversation around them is incredibly toxic.
Yes, it is.
And
yes,
mean,
it is.
And mean. Like I'm like, oh yeah, I'd love to talk about Elaine, but I'm like, ooh, I should never talk about Elaine.
That's probably the safest route to go, because even Jack and I are on opposite sides of that conversation.
Yeah, we tease each other, luckily.
We tease each other, but it can get ugly. People are very opinionated about it.
Oh yeah. I try to say, like, I trust Sarah to do the romance, and I'll figure out the other stuff, because like whatever she does, she will woo me, she will romance me, and I think I'll just let that be. But now the conversation has come to Bryce and Hunt. And are they really mates? And it's like,
I don't think they are.
Well, based on what Lily was just saying, she had that star glow.
She did. And I just reread it for this talk, and I mean, I found something far more interesting that my mind is currently on.
Oh, tell us that. Tell us that interesting.
I was looking for every time that Bryce and Hunt had sex, right?
Yeah.
And in House of Fire and Breath, and every time they do, Bryce could have sworn, I don't know if you've seen this term going around SJM talk, that anytime someone says they could have sworn something, it happens.
Mm-hmm.
Bryce says she could have sworn each time they've had sex that they were falling through space and time.
Oh, wait. They are Farrah's ancestors.
Whoa! Whoa!
What if Hunt is the actual Illyrian warrior who fights off everyone? I know that's one of your theories.
Oh. Wait, but her...
I'm just here to light everything on fire and watch the world burn.
No, because so I have I've made two friends off of this, and we have a group chat, and we've been discussing both Hunt and now this time thing that I've brought in, because there is the time rift mention in Alina's tomb in the very beginning of Throne of Glass, and then we have the time string in the harp, and now we have this, where the horn could possibly go through time and space.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm just like...
You've broken her brain.
I mean, no, because the idea of time travel... Oh, you did break my brain a little bit, because so my theory is for, what is Sarah building?
Mm-hmm.
My theory has come to time travel, and that our main cast of, characters are going to go back to when the Daglin were on Prythian and stop them before it all happens.
Oh.
And now I'm like...
Don't the Archeron sisters have bits of red in their hair? I'm just saying.
Oh no, what have you done?
You heard it here first, folks, on Book Talk for Book Talk. New theories just coming out of left field.
Yeah, seriously. One of the questions you guys sent me is about Hunt's father.
Yes, let's just dive into that.
I'm just going to dive right into that. So I think that I think his father is an alias,
mm-hmm.
but now maybe Hunt is an alias. Or I would concede even that he is just Illyrian, and I can explain that. And since we were talking about mates, angels on Crescent City are not fae. They do not have mating bonds. It's just in title.
Oh yeah.
But Hunt, if Hunt and Bryce are truly mates, and I'm leaning towards yes, because Bryce's scent changes.
Mm-hmm.
Rune picks that up, and that's something that happens with a mate. Then Hunt has to have some type of fae in him to create that mating bond. And Illyrians are fae. They like to say they're not, but they are considered lesser fae. And Thur, so in the conversation of Analius and Thur, who is Hunt's dad, people are like, well, they said Hunt looks just like Thur. When we look at what did Thur look like in the books, he is described as a high fae god with lightning powers.
Mm-hmm.
Analius is considered the Illyrians' god. He's a god to the Illyrians. He's a warrior god. And, Analius, the story of Analius is that he was fighting off ancient beings, probably the Asteri, or the Daglin, who were on Prythian. He held the line for 3 days. And then at the end, he did drag himself up to the top of Ramil, and he touched the sacred stone. The sacred stone will heal you and bring you to where you need to be most. If this is all happening around the time of the rifts and when they're shutting gates, he could have been trapped on Midgard, and that's where he needed to be most.
Mm-hmm.
And it would have healed him. And they think he died because he never returned, because he wasn't there.
I'm on board.
I am too. It makes total sense that would be a gate.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. And then when Nesta is on top, Bellius, Emery's cousin, who is fighting her, notes that she draws a line in the sand, which is what Analius was said to have done. And Emery never told her that part of the story. She just did that naturally. On one page before Bellius comes, it was snowing. And then after Bellius comes talking about Analius, it starts thunder and lightning.
Oh.
Which I think is like big red flags, big alerts. And then you have Thur, who is a lightning god, is depicted as high fae. He looks just like Hunt, who is to say that he is not Analius, or that Analius isn't Thor, or Thur.
I mean, now all three are one, so that's now canon in my head. So you're talking about how Hunt looks like, I mean, everyone out there at this point, practically. At the end of Crescent City, where, you know, I started screaming also, was when Reese comes out and Bryce says it was identical to Rune. And first off, that's going to have to change some fan art out there. It's a lot of fan art is not making them match identically. So what's going on? What do you think here? Can you explain to me? Like, give me a reason. Like, why do they look the same?
Okay, this is another one of those long, there's a long road to get to a very weird answer.
Those are my favorite roads.
So before we got Rune and Reese looking alike, we had Maeve and Reese looking alike, or similarities.
Oh.
And Reese also has similar powers to Valg. He has the Demeti power. My pronunciation is garbage, so I apologize to anyone who I offend listening. I pronounce things wrong. The Demeti powers, the mind powers. That's what Maeve has. It's described very similar. Valg have that black, sweeping, creepy power. They have the purple eyes. You know, Maeve and Reese both have purple eyes. So regardless of how Rune and Reese look alike, I need you to track on me that Reese has Valg blood.
Okay.
It is described that Reese is something completely different than the other High Lords at the High Lords meeting.
Yep.
His power is unmatched. You know, we look at the Night Court. The Night Court has a lot of similarities to like Valg creatures and just Valgness in general. So Reese is Valg. So we have that side of it. And now we have the second side that comes in from Rune is the Starborn power and lineage. We already know that Reese is always likened to the night sky, to stars, night triumphant. His power is darkness and stars. Rune also has a darkness power to his shadows. People try to say maybe he's a light singer. I tend to disagree with that. Mostly, if he is, then he is an untrained shadow singer, mostly because I see Azrael's shadows acting completely different.
Yeah,
his powers are completely different. So I think that Rune probably has the Darkbringer power, which is from the Night Court, which is what Reese essentially has, is a very, potent Darkbringer power, which is what Kier has, the Night Court's army. So then we have the Starborn power on Rune's side, which, Reese, like I had said, is likened to stars. This is where it's going to get unhinged. Thea was the Starborn queen. Thea was married to Finan on Prythian, and then the Daglin, Finan had killed the Daglin, pushed them out. He was the High King of Prythian. He ended up marrying a queen of her own territory, and then 1,000 years later, the Asteri opened up the gates, and she knew that they were Daglin before Finan did. I have no idea what happened. We don't know what happened between Thea and Finan, but it ended up with Pelias killing Finan, them stealing the sword, and then going to Midgard to defeat the Asteri. And then we find out that Thea had 2 daughters in House of Sky and Breath, which we don't learn in ACOTAR. We learn that in House of Sky and Breath. And they shut the gates. One daughter Thea gets killed by the Asteri. Then there are 2 daughters. One of them goes missing. And then one of them is forced to marry Pelias. And they have children. And that's where Rune's line comes from.
The way you say it like that, I'm like, it just, there's reading it and then there's like listening to it. I'm like, yes, this makes more sense.
When it's like more lined out.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing is, so now we have, Thea has 2 daughters. We did not hear that they had 2 daughters in ACOTAR. We hear that in Crescent City. We also learn that Adis was Thea's lover. I think that at least one or both of those girls, one of them is Adis's daughter. Adis is a prince of hell. He has cold magic. He has striking blue eyes. Blah 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 blah. This I don't have quite an answer to, but it's going to be left up. The hell's pets are Valg. Yes, they summon the beasts. They have black blood. They smell of soil. In Throne of Glass, they summon the Valg beasts, which are the same as the Princes of the Pit's pets. So the question is, are the Princes of Hell Valg? And that's where all of this comes, all the demons that we get in Crescent City and Tog, that's why they're the same. Or are somehow the Valg summoning the Prince of the Pit's pets to Throne of Glass. My answer would be that the Princes of the Pit are Valg, and that Rune and Reese, like I said, this is a very long spiel to get to one answer, but Rune and Reese are products of a Valg X Starborn relation.
Okay.
And that the reason why sometimes Reese has stars in his eyes, and then when he gets mad or whatever, those stars go away. And it's his Valg and Starborn power inside of him fighting against one another, basically.
Oh my God. I love that so much. Amy, did you need to process anything, or are you just kind of soaking it all in?
I'm currently soaking it all in. I could see that being the case because his eyes either contain stars or they're very cold. And they're never both cold and starry together.
Yeah.
So I'm still processing.
Reese also, in one of the times, he has a nightmare in, I think it's A Court of Mist and Fury.
Mm-hmm.
And he has this nightmare and he plunges like the whole House of Wind into like darkness, right? It's not even darkness with stars. It's just dark. And Farrah goes in and she can see her breath. It's cold. Azrael has cold shadows that do not work within Fae magic. They don't know where that comes from. So and the Princes of the Pit, whenever they come in or they're summoned, it's cold. Bryce sees her breath when she summons Adis in the first book. Like, so hell, cold. So anytime I see dark, cold magic, I'm like, you're from hell. Like, that's a hell power.
Yeah. I have it in my head now, because you said it. The Adis has some daughter out there that he doesn't know. And that daughter is Vesa. I don't know. I'm just throwing. I'm just saying names now, just hoping so something sticks.
We have the unnamed MIA daughter.
Yeah.
And then we have Helena, who was married to Peleus, which she was considered, she had Starborn power, and she was of shadows. So I would assume it's probably Helena, at least one or both, but one I would assume would be Helena.
It's a more logical answer than
anything
that I pull out.
Fall has officially started here in Los Angeles, and that means we finally get to do fall activities.
I have been counting down the days for when I can go to pumpkin patches, maybe even hit up an apple orchard, and I get to do all of it looking super cute in my Quince boyfriend sweater.
This weather is perfect for my dark academia vibes, and I'm so excited to bust out my washable silk blouse because I'm going to be taking pictures.
Quince is known for their Mongolian cashmere sweaters from $50. And that's not all. Quince has so many other amazing things on their website.
All of those items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands.
That includes leather jackets, cotton cardigans, soft denim. Like, my entire fall wardrobe is genuinely turning into Quince wardrobe.
By partnering directly with top factories and cutting out the cost of the middleman, we get savings as the customer.
One of my favorite parts about Quince is the fact that they only work with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices. And they still manage to get premium fabrics and finishes for that, luxury feeling for every item that they have.
Get cozy in Quince's high-quality wardrobe essentials. Go to quince.com/booktalk for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's Quince, QUINCE.com/booktalk, BOOKTALK, to get free shipping and 365-day returns. That's quince.com/booktalk.
Move your career further, faster in just 2 days with a Harvard Professional and Executive Development Program. Advance your leadership skills, craft smarter business strategies, build your network, and transform how you work and think to keep your career moving forward. You'll earn a certificate and can add Harvard to your resume with Harvard Professional and Executive Development. Learn more at professional.dce.harvard.edu/Spotify.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/campaign to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
I'm going to go into one of your other questions.
Yeah.
You guys asked me about Amryn and my theory on her, and this theory and that theory kind of go in line with one another. But my theory is that Amryn is Valg as well. But we learned that Amryn was the one who trained Rhys and his mind powers and his powers. And if he has Valg powers and Amryn is Valg, that's why she trained him. It's because she knew how to work his powers.
Wouldn't she identify that in him, though? Or, like, isn't that something that she would have shared with him? Or
we don't. The thing with I love Rhysand. I love him. You know, I mean, I don't love him as much as Rowan, but it's fairly close. If I had the chance to smack that man in the mouth for every single time he's either like, we don't have time to answer this question, or let's keep this a secret, or I don't care.
Yeah.
The amount of times where he's like, I don't care why that you glow. I'm like, Bestie, I do.
He is very good at keeping secrets. And I remember reading in A Court of Mist and Fury that he has a lot of things about Amryn that he either won't tell Feyre or claims to not know and can't share with Feyre. But I do wonder if there's more deeper understanding between the two of them than we as readers know at this point.
Well, my theory is that she is at least part Valg. I can't say she's 100% Valg. I think she is specifically the type of Valg that ended up creating the Valg X-Fae witches in Throne of Glass. And there's just, there's the similarities of between what Amryn can do and the Valg powers, which is very similar to the mind powers that Rhysand has. She can go into someone's mind and give them their worst nightmare and kill them, basically. That's what she does when they attack Valaris. And then also her eyes. Her eyes are one thing that we really get a great description of, the silver, the unholy silver. Irwin has silver eyes. They flash like an unholy silver and then go back to black.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah. And then, she does have this, when she does shed her form, she goes into that bright burning, woman of flame and whatnot. One of the biggest questions that I've had, like even before I knew about the multiverse, was how do witches have the ability to fly? If Amryn has wings and the ability to fly, I'm almost wondering if that's where that comes from. Where my thoughts are going on that one.
Yeah.
So I think that Amryn is at least part Valg. She could also, I don't know if the Asteri do breed, because a lot of people are like, well, a lot of people think she's an Asteri, or at least related to the Asteri. And I'm like, well, we know that the Asteri and the Valg have worked together. The Daglin and the First Gods in Crescent City were bros. Yeah. They like to torment Fae together on their wild hunt, or so I don't, if the Asteri do breed, they are really creepy scientists of breeding and genes. I wouldn't put it past them to try and create like a perfected being between them and the Valg.
And that'd be Amryn.
And that would be Amryn.
Oh my god. It's exciting. It all comes together.
Yeah. And like Amryn and the witches, Amryn's always said that she has, long nails, that she likes to pick with little tiny bones, and witches have those iron nails. She drinks blood. The witches drink blood like wine. It's said that she drinks blood like wine. Like there's just a lot of similarities between them that I feel like can't be discounted.
Yeah.
Also, like people had said that SJM said once in a Q&A that she was an angel. I found that Q&A on accident. I had bought the original covers just for for my collection, and in the back of my A Court of Frost and Starlight was that Q&A, and I found it just while I was flipping through on camera. It was kind of funny. I have it posted on my TikTok. But in the interview, she says she is basically a biblical angel of a god, not the holy god. She is not actually an angel. She just said she based her off of the biblical angels from the Bible.
Okay.
So,
People take it too literally. Yeah,
people took it very literally. And it was a very hot thing to talk about in my Amryn video, but I did find it, and I just want to clear the air now that I have a little bit of a soapbox.
Speaking of Amryn, we know that she came from the prison in Prythian, and Rhys says in A Court of Mist and Fury that it's basically, he thinks it's an eighth court.
This is my favorite thing to talk about ever.
Okay,
this is
please.
My favorite thing to talk about ever. So, yeah, the Dusk Court. We learn in chapter, House of Sky and Breath, chapter 73. It's my favorite chapter ever written in history because of all of those little moments. Like, you're like, oh my goodness, I know what this means. So we learn that the Starborn Fae come from a small isles of a verdant land that was almost constantly in permanent twilight, dusk. We learn in Akamath and in Akasif, it's talked about in Akasif as well. The prison is an isle off the side of Prythian. It's continually shrouded in mist, which I have a theory on why that is. But it's a large, it's not just a tiny little place with like a stone prison on top of it. It's pretty big. It has a large mountain. It takes all day to hike it. They can't just get to the top. They have to start from the bottom and hike up. There are rivers and streams and grassy slopes. Like it's big. When I first read it before all of this, I was like, oh, it's just like, you know, a tiny little place with, you know, a stone prison. You know, my imagination wasn't very big, but I have now expanded that thought.
Yeah.
But then Rhys says it may have even been an eighth court. We learn that it existed before High Lord, so this would have been around the time of the High King Finan. Finan married a queen of her own territory, and then we learn that the Starborn come from their own land, and that Mor's family had once ruled the North. And he says that it was considered an eighth court. And then we learn in House of Sky and Breath that there was a dusk court, a dusk land, a land of a permanent twilight that they hailed from. We also learn in Akasif that in chapter, I don't know now I can't find it, but the Pegasuses that Helion has hailed from the prison island, and he took them when, I don't know when, they moved, or he didn't, but the Day Court ended up taking them at some point in history and keeping them. So that also ties in the Dusk Court as well. That it was once actually a place. And then Cassian says when they're hiking at him and Nesta, he says that it felt like the land was waiting for something to return. Like it's been waiting for something.
So the Dusk Court is part of the Night Court, or half?
Yes. Well, it got absorbed.
That's why it's so big.
It got absorbed.
That's why the Night Court is massive. Because it's two courts.
Yeah, I don't know how it works. I don't know what happened, because we learned that after Finan died, they rose up, the High Lords rose up and claimed their land, and they were no longer ruled by a High King ever again. It's always been High Lords. But it's interesting that it gets brought up in ACOTAR, and specifically the piece that Mor's family once ruled it. Because I have a very big theory that Mor is Starborn, and specifically she is the High Lady of the Dusk Court.
Shut the front door. What?
Oh, I was just going to say, I know there's something big coming for Mor. Like, we know this based off, what is it, the last scene in the Frost and Starlight novella? I can't remember where it happens. I think it's in Frost and Starlight. Like, she has her hidden home, nobody knows about, there's something watching her. Like, there's something big around Mor, and I would not be surprised.
Yeah, our background, so Amy's and I, and our background, we both like went to school for creative writing. So like just from a writing, like breaking down literature from a writer's point of view, she's setting it up. Like there's too many convenience things happening surrounding Mor. And, you know, I know a lot of people kind of got mad at Silver Flames just because of how much she wasn't in there and referenced, and her love story is easy. But now that you're saying this, like there's going to be a whole Mor thing, more of Mor.
The thing about Mor is like, they're like, oh, her power is truth. And you're like,
what does that mean?
What does that mean? How on earth, if her power is just simply truth, that she is Rhys's third. She is so powerful to them. Like, she is considered so powerful that should Amryn and Rhys die, she will take over and fix or destroy everything, or something like that.
Yeah.
How can she go up against Amryn? Before she sheds her, or before she becomes just a normal high fae. Her and Amryn get into it. They say it once. Her and Amryn got into it once.
Yeah.
And his house was left, his vacation houses were left in smoldering piles.
Mm-hmm.
I can't fathom her gift just being simply, I know when someone's lying to me.
We're going to get Starborns left and right in the next one.
The thing is, so when the true Starborn left, somebody, the way that, we learn about the High Lord's heirs and power shifting, when Thea died, someone should have received her power. Someone should have been her heir to take over the Dusk Court. But if we learn that there were trapped fae in the prison, that power had to shift somewhere, and we learned that Kyr's line took over the Night Court around this time. So that family lineage is in Moore. And then when Moore said she came into her power, she likened it to when a High Lord's heir comes into their power. She, she shook the mountains. I can't, the way that SJM foreshadows her slipping that it was like a High Lord coming into their power.
It's too convenient.
It's too convenient. And then you get Truth, and then Truth Teller.
Yeah.
Which is the pair to the Star Sword, which is the Starborn.
Oh my God, we're going to get a whole High Lady series with just more, and I want that. This is like the one thing that I am going to cling to until Sarah's done writing books. Like, this one thing is all that I want. And it makes sense. Why would Bryce fall onto Prythian? She doesn't know how to use her power. Mm-hmm. She doesn't understand it. If there's nobody on Prythian who is Starborn to help her, how would she get back? How would she understand it? How is she going to know the history? So my thought is for Crescent City 3 that it's going to make, so we also know that Azriel can't get a love story until him and Moore sort through their shit.
So true.
Like, there is no way he can have a genuine relationship with someone until he has cleared the air with someone that he's been pining for 500 years.
Yeah, but he's a shadow singer, so for 500 years, how does he not know Moore's secret?
I think he might. I think he feels something for her. And, if Moore is Starborn, I think that he's one of her knights, which we learned that Starborns have knights. And that's why Bryce is pulled to, like, Cormac and, all that. And it says that Moore lightens around Azriel so many times. There are these little moments where Azriel's shadows lighten, lift, glow when Moore is around him and when Moore touches him. So light.
Yes.
I'm like, I just, that's what I believe. And I think that he truly, Moore even says she feels something for him, but she doesn't understand it. She doesn't know why. And I'm wondering if that's because he's one of her knights.
Because he is. No, it is. You're
that makes true. So much sense.
I know it does. I'm like,
you are the Morrigan. You speak truth.
I know. Like,
yeah.
The Happy Morrigan is what your new handle needs to be.
So I think that, for Bryce is going to need a training montage that, goes in line with a lot of SJM's books. Everyone gets their training. And I think that that Crescent City 3, when Bryce is on Prythian, is going to set up ACOTAR 6 or 5 or whatever it is. Can't remember now.
So when it comes to Bryce being in Prythian, when do you think she's going to go back to her world? And do you think she's going to take anyone from Prythian with her?
I almost wonder if they're going to restore the gates and keep them open for good. When we get into the conversation of what does the end of ending the Asteri look like, I immediately think about Thanos in Marvel and how he does the snap. And then after they reverse the snap, I don't know if any of you guys are Marvel people.
Yeah.
In Falcon and the Winter Soldier, one of the biggest issues that they talk about is resources and how there is no resources to accommodate for the people who came back. I know Prythian's fairly large, and we don't know anything about the other Fae lands in ACOTAR or in Throne of Glass. I just can't see a mass amount of people coming from Midgard and having to just integrate into these other Fey lands. I mean, it would be chaos. It would be mass chaos. There would be power, tons of power surges for thrones. I can't see the Autumn King and Byron just being like, I'll split the throne 50-50 with you, bro. Like it will be chaos.
Yeah.
And then you think about, we don't even, I can't imagine Sarah's not going to bring in Throne of Glass.
Oh, yeah.
All these random Fae coming, to Terrasen, and they're coming from Midgard, which has electricity and TV and cars and all this stuff, and like Prythian and Terrasen don't. They are, rural fantasy. I just don't see it working as them merging, which a lot of people have like said they have to merge. But I think the most likely, other than time travel, which I need to spend a lot more time thinking of to like actually like solidify an answer for that. Outside of time travel and undoing literally everything, I would see just them opening the gates and allowing for like just a natural crossing visitation and stuff like that.
What was Bryce wearing when she ended up in Prythian again? I
think she was in leggings, like spandex workout leggings, like sneakers and a t-shirt.
I'm just trying to like establish, like, was someone like, are they, like, because I'm sure it's like, what are they wearing? What are they wearing? And I'm just like what part of like, is it Farah who's like, wait, leggings? What? I want those. Like, it's not leather. Yes.
I think like there is a mention one time of Farah like wearing one of Rhysand's like knit sweaters and like a pair of
black tights or something.
Yeah, tights, which are, close enough.
Part of me wished that like Bryce like showed up in one of her like mini outfits and stuff. Like
more would get on board.
It. Yeah, literally.
Both of you.
Will Vasa come more into the story or play a role in the multiverse? Or at least the lore around her and what's happening with her and the Death God.
There's just so much with like her that's going on, and Lucian, like it's just like there's all these like there's a whole other story happening.
I think with Vasa, the biggest thing that's going to come from it is Koshi, which is the dark sorcerer. Koshi is going to become, I actually don't know if he's going to be, quote unquote, a villain, in parentheses of like, I don't know if he's going to try and take over anything. I think he really just wants out. I don't know if, when he gets out of his pond, will he be nefarious? I can't answer that. But I think that Vasa is going to be opening the door to Koshi again, because we saw a small glimpse of him in Silver Flames. And I think that he is going to come back. And there are a lot of things about him, not necessarily even about Vasa, that make me question. Is it Elaine? I think when she's having one of her visions, she's talking about his black box that he covets, like above everything else. And anything black stone, black crowns, black eyes. My flags just, alert. And so I'm like, what is he hiding in a black, in Throne of Glass and in throughout all of the books, though the obsidian stone are used to like trap Valg and people. And I'm like, what is in his black box? I gotta know. And the other thing about it is Papa Archeron, who also doesn't have a name.
Yep.
He talks to him and makes a deal with him. I wanna know that conversation. What was the deal that they made?
And who is Papa Archeron to be making that deal?
Exactly. Did he make a deal like, I'll give you my soul, and that's why he died, and like why he was so calm and collect in the war? Or was it something else? Did he bargain something else, and that's going to come biting the sisters in the ass? Like, I'll give you my daughter, Elaine, who knows what he bargained away to allow that. With Vasa, it's either going to come down to petty relationship mate drama between Lucian and Elaine, or it's going to be she's going to lead the path to whatever Koshi's got going on.
And if we're lucky, it'll be both.
And if we're lucky, it'll be both.
Yeah. And then my personal final question that's not on the list at all. Do you think you're on SJM's radar?
I seriously hope not. it does keep me up at night.
No, I'm sure she would love you. I'm sure she'd be like, thank you. Someone appreciates the work I've done.
No matter what the percentage of what you have thought is right or wrong, she's probably like, bravo for like trying to think through the clues I'm giving. Because she gives clues.
Oh, yeah.
We're just often overlooking them.
Yeah. When you don't know to look, you don't. And then when you're like, oh, I need to look, or, you know, the multiverse is coming together. And honestly, the biggest thing was I was going insane.
Yeah.
Everything felt like it was exploding around me. Because, you know, in Kingdom of Ash, we get Aelin falling through the multiverse and, like, you know, her spotting Reese. And, like, you know, that was a fun, that was a cool moment. And, like, I thought we were just going to get another one of those, like, moments of catching a glimpse of Aelin and Rowan this time or something like that sometime in Crescent City, and then, like, carrying on with our day, just, like, a hint and a nudge. And Sarah was just like, I'm going to body slam you.
And then you have to wait 18 months.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm so happy that you had a baby, and like, I'm glad that's, you know, you're taking that time. But also, woman, your world is on fire behind you. You left your entire fan base screaming, and then you just said, see ya in June. Bye. So I fear that I am, but if I do ever have the chance, I hope she'll do a panel or a book tour or something, and I will do literally anything to get there. I'm going to bring, you know, I have a notebook that's like a comprehensive breakdown of, I'm currently building and slowly working on it, but every character breakdown, all the powers breakdown, everything that we learn, just broken down and organized in a notebook. And I just think,
give it to her, like, sign it.
Look at it. Look at this.
This is what you made me do.
Literally, I like want to give her, like, you know, I think Air Fire currently is my most tabbed book, and I just wanted to like grade it. Like, did I catch, like, was that actually something I was supposed to catch? Like,
I hope that if she's ever like gets like caught on something, like, dang, I forgot about this one area, she just goes to your videos and then is like,
got it.
This.
I truly believe that if I can connect it, it's because she's already done it.
Yes, she has. She's smart. She's
incredibly intelligent. I would not be surprised if she has like one of those serial killer walls, like with the red tape, like, you know, that she has laid everything out. I genuinely, you know, it does keep me up at night to think about, like, oh my goodness, what she sees. And she's like, that woman is spreading lies on the internet. And I'm like, I'm leading everyone in the wrong direction.
You're adding fuel to the fire of her Armageddon. And I don't think it matters where you lead them.
No.
I hope not. I have heard, like, quite a few people have messaged me or told me that, like, you've gotten my husband to read these books because, like, now we know, like, all these cool things tie in, and, like, they're like, I've gotten so many people, like, to watch your videos, and they're like, oh, that sounds, like, really interesting. And that has been, like, I'm like, well, you're welcome, Sarah. I'm paying for your new baby's college.
I I do. I mean, I love your page because it's you bring in so many people to have a conversation that, you know, no one should ever be embarrassed about discussing literature and to discuss art. And at the end of the day, we're all having fun. We're all like enjoying this amazing world that this amazing woman put out. And you are facilitating that on TikTok in a very healthy and constructive way. And you don't get that on a lot of TikTok pages. Like, you're probably one of the most like amazing and safe and wonderful page out there, and you're doing everyone a service with that.
Thank you. I would like to say that if anyone feels embarrassed or ashamed to look at my page and see that I am an unhinged woman with a whiteboard and a spatula talking about a fictional world, like, you cannot get any more crazy or embarrassing as that.
I am a little sad the spatula didn't make an appearance, but is the yes.
It's right
always
here.
At the ready.
It's right here. I'm doing this right in front of where I usually film. So all of my books, all of my pens, my whiteboard is sitting right next to me with whatever I had on for today's video right next to me.
Well, thank you so much, Lili, for recording with us today and just taking us through just a snippet of the multiverse. And hopefully, you know, as more comes out, we can still be on your radar and have you back, because I know our listeners are going to have a lot of questions.
Thank you. I was a little bit nervous because I am an anxious person, and you guys were just so wonderful and nice and just very thankful to actually get to talk to someone about this and not just my phone and a whiteboard behind me.
Thanks, Lili. Thank you so much. You were so lovely, and we can't wait to see what wonderful, crazy, beautiful thoughts you have next.
Thank you for listening to this special episode of Book Talk for Book Talk. We encourage you to rate and subscribe to our show on your preferred podcast listening platform.
As we gear up for Season 2, where we will deep dive into A Court of Mist and Fury, we will continue to share between-season thoughts and interviews with our listeners.
We would love to hear your thoughts based on today's conversation. You can submit your comments to our form at booktalkforbooktalk.com for a chance to have your feedback discussed during a weekly mini-episode.
If you are enjoying the podcast, visit our website, booktalkforbooktalk.com, to view our latest merch and to learn about supporting the show through Patreon, Ko-Fi, or Venmo. Or find us on TikTok and Instagram at the handle Book Talk for Book Talk.
Fall has officially started here in Los Angeles, and that means we finally get to do fall activities.
I have been counting down the days for when I can go to pumpkin patches, maybe even hit up an apple orchard, and I get to do all of it looking super cute in my Quince boyfriend sweater.
This weather is perfect for my dark academia vibes, and I'm so excited to bust out my washable silk blouse because you know I'm going to be taking pictures.
Quince is known for their Mongolian cashmere sweaters from $50. And that's not all. Quince has so many other amazing things on their website.
All of those items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands.
That includes leather jackets, cotton cardigans, soft denim. Like, my entire fall wardrobe is genuinely turning into Quince wardrobe.
By partnering directly with top factories and cutting out the cost of the middleman, we get savings as the customer.
One of my favorite parts about Quince is the fact that they only work with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices. And they still manage to get premium fabrics and finishes for that, luxury feeling for every item that they have.
Get cozy in Quince's high-quality wardrobe essentials. Go to quince.com/booktalk for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's Quince, QUINCE.com/booktalk, BOOKTALK, to get free shipping and 365-day returns. That's quince.com/booktalk.